Picture this. You walk into the room at an event. Maybe it's a networking party or a conference, anywhere you're looking to make some new connections. How do you feel? Are you pumped and ready to start some new conversations, or are you slowly creeping towards the food table, preparing to hide yourself in a corner and not talk to anyone? Well, today's guest is my personal networking expert. She will share her own journey to building her confidence in life, travel, and entrepreneurship, and tips for helping us to do the same. Prepare to be super inspired, increase your confidence, and take your networking to the next level. You're listening to the Positively Delighted Show, episode number 12. Welcome to the Positively Delighted Show. I'm your host, Kelsey Henry, and in this podcast, we'll be creating a positive mindset through inspirational interviews, music, stories, and exercises for building happy habits. Welcome to the Positively Delighted Show, everyone. I have a really fun interview prepared for you today, and I hope you're going to learn a lot from it. Today, I'm interviewing Laura Petersen, a tall math and psychology teacher turned international best-selling author, international speaker, podcaster, and persuasive writing expert. She helps people to actually make money with their books, build their brand authority, and grow their business. Laura believes that helping others grow in business allows you to make a bigger impact in the world and have more time, money, and freedom to do more of what you love. Laura is the host of the popular podcast Copy That Pops, and she is the author of 2 best-selling books on Amazon, Copywriting for Podcasters and Permission to Write a Brand-Building Book for Podcasters. Both books hit number 1 in their categories in the US and abroad. I met Laura earlier this year when we were both volunteering for the Social Media Marketing World Conference, and I was instantly impressed with her confidence in networking. She took me under her wing and bestowed some of her marketing wisdom on me, even getting me into an exclusive networking party, and it had such a big impact on me just at the time, and also even since then, I have noticed a change in myself. After seeing Laura in action, I've noticed such a huge difference in my own networking confidence. So I wanted to have her on the podcast today to share this wisdom with you. Networking is such an important skill, and you can use it to improve all areas of your life. Most obviously, yes, you can improve your career, but you can also take this so much further than that. I'm talking about so much more than just your career. I'm talking about your dreams and the dreams of the people around you. Networking can make your dreams a reality, and that's a theme that came up often in this interview. Laura talks about her journey from teaching to owning her own business and everything in between. Every step of the way, she met new people, she learned new skills, and increased her own confidence. I hope that after hearing this interview, you will as well. So let's get into the interview with Laura Petersen. Laura, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, Kelsey.
I'm so excited to talk to you about a couple different topics, but specifically around confidence in life and business, because I met you at Social Media Marketing World, and girl, you had confidence out the wazoos, and I was just so impressed with you. And I feel like I absorbed some of that confidence, and I have kept it ever since.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. It's funny, it comes to me as a little bit of a surprise, so I'm glad to hear good feedback. But I think it just goes to show that it's all a journey, and the more that you kind of realize that you're doing what you want to be doing and quote unquote meant to be doing. I don't necessarily believe in like a destiny or anything, but just stuff that really aligns with your values and your interests and your passions, it just starts to feel really good. And I think that starts to show. So keep going in whatever you're doing, because it will start coming together.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, exactly. Because that's what I was seeing, was that you were just a woman in her element. And that's what I was like, I was noticing that. And it was so cool because you took me to a networking party, and I was like really nervous about it because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be there. And you're like, you're supposed to be here.
Act like you're supposed to be there, and no one will question it. It's so true.
And I mean, you know, people say that all the time, like act like you're supposed to be here, fake it till you make it. But I think it was because it hit me such in that moment that it's been so impactful, because I'm like, you know what? I'm here. Everyone else is here. I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah. And it helps too when you do have someone who is attached to it. Cause like the event we were going to, we can give away secrets. It was run by Pat Flynn, who's like a big deal in business and podcasting. But I'm a part of a mastermind that he does every month here in San Diego. So I was actually one of the people who was kind of helping organize the event. Yeah. So I was like, girl, like, I'll put you on the list. Don't worry. So, but that like goes back to what I know you want to talk about a lot too, is networking. Mm-hmm. Like I put in the effort to show up every month at this mastermind meeting so that I could be a part of the one organizing, so that I could say, hey, I want to add someone to the list, and I could have the power to do that. I put in the effort to get to that position through networking, through showing up, through just trying to connect with people. So I think that's a great lesson too in all of it.
Yeah. Well, I think also, I mean, what I was coming from in my insecurity was that I didn't quite understand that yet, I think. Right? So I'm like, oh, well, no, like you don't need to like, I feel like you were like sneaking me in to the event. But now I'm realizing like, as I'm actually reaching out to my network, like, hey, I want to get to this event. It's sold out. Can you help me? Right. You're really just reaching out to people who can actually do something about it.
Absolutely.
Sold out is, you know,
it's relative.
Relative. Yeah, right. Exactly. So I love that. Want to dig into all of this. So I want to go back in time a little bit. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay. And I want to hear about your career from teacher to entrepreneur, and how did you get to be to where you are today?
Yeah. So getting to teacher, I think I started as a big nerd in school. So I always did really well. I got all the A's I could, and give me a syllabus, I can figure out how to get an A. And my parents, neither of my birth parents graduated from college. So they felt like we're struggling because we didn't have a college education. Therefore, if we just tell our kids that's the number one thing to do, then they'll just be happy and healthy and financially, secure their whole lives. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So I just followed that recipe. And, in the 80s and 90s, that did make sense. A lot has changed. I grew up, I was born in 81, and I graduated high school in 99. So I was really a kid of the 80s and 90s. And I followed that recipe, went to a great school. I went to UCLA, I graduated magna cum laude.
Nice.
And and I literally thought, like, I was expecting, because everyone made such a big deal about all the good grades I got in my GPA. Mm-hmm. Freaking nobody asked me about that after I graduated college. I was like, wait a second. You don't even care that I went to college. You don't care where I went, and you don't care about my GPA. What the heck? Like, I have been lied to. So, and I remember getting out of school, graduating with honors from a Catawba University. And people are like, great, here's your entry level job making like $22,000 a year. Like, or you can be like a secretary, a waitress, or just some like entry level, like literally entering in data to like a computer.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck? Like, I've been lied to. I thought I was going to come out making like 60 grand starting and like all these benefits and stuff.
And what was your degree in?
So I started as an English major.
Okay.
And they sucked the fun out of it pretty fast. So I changed. Just too much writing and reading. Like I love writing and reading, but like added like a more enjoy it pace rather than just crank it out. So I kept taking more and more psychology classes and just fell in love with psychology. So I switched my major to psych. So I did a major in psych with a minor in German. So I actually studied abroad in Germany for a year.
That's so cool.
So yeah. So after I studied abroad in Germany, my junior year of college, this was 01 to 02. So literally I left like a month before September 11th happened. And I'm so glad that I left before that, because my parents would never have let me go if it had happened right before. So I got lucky in the timing of that. Had an amazing year abroad. I learned to dance salsa. I did trampoline competitions. I took a painting class.
Okay. Like trampoline competitions?
Yes.
What does this involve?
So it's actually an Olympic sport now. I don't think it was when I... Yeah. Okay. So we would have, there were two main components. There was like the individual. So you would do like a routine on the trampoline. So you like jump, flip, land on your butt, flip backwards, whatever. Like there's like, you would come up with like a synchronized routine on the trampoline.
Yeah.
Or not a synchronized, I'd say like, you'd plan it out. But then the second part was a synchronized routine. So they would have two of those big rectangular trampolines side by side, and you and another teammate would have to jump at the exact same time and do the exact same routine motions as synchronized as possible, just like synchronized swimming.
That's
where like
amazing.
they're watching your toe points and your arms and like everything. And yeah, so for some reason, my school had this, and they had like a beginning and an advanced level at the college. So I started at the beginning, and I did gymnastics as a kid.
Okay.
So I knew some basics, but like to jump in that way was very different, because in the past I would just kind of bounce as many times as I felt like it, do a flip. But this was like one bounce into a flip into something else. So like you really had to practice. Yeah.
Do you have recordings of this?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I would love to see it.
I don't think so, because this was in 2001 into 2002. So people didn't have like smartphones or anything. Yeah. I remember talking on like AOL Instant Messenger all the time. I don't know. So I don't have video recordings, but I do have a photo of me and my like unitard with the other, I was the only American. So it was all Germans, where we like won this, what's it called? Like a trophy. We're like holding, I don't know. It's so funny. So I've got that someplace.
I would love to see that when you find
I don't even think I have a digital. Like I think it's a printed out photo.
Send me a photo of it.
In a scrapbook. I know. Okay, I'm going to write this down. Let's see if I can find it. And I like, I'm like tall and slender, but I like kind of got fat that year so it's like, I look very not cute. So I don't know if I want those photos to surface. No, I'm just kidding. The freshman 15, right?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so that year in Germany was such a departure from what I had done before, because I was all academics all the time. But in Germany, I did dancing and art and trampoline, and I backpacked all over the place. Yeah. So when I came back, my perspective had already started to change about what was possible in life. And then my dad gave me the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
And that was another monumental mind shift. So that was, I just turned 21. He gave me that book when I was in my summer between junior and senior year. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to own real estate. I want to start businesses. I want to not trade time for money and start building like a machine that makes money while I sleep and all this stuff. And so I ended up graduating from UCLA early. I got my real estate license. I started working with a real estate agent because I thought, I'm like, this is how I can learn the real estate game. But pretty fast, I realized I didn't want to be a real estate agent, just because you have to get really known in a certain area. Yeah. And my family's in Orange County. I was born and raised in Orange County, and the real estate agent I was working with was also in Orange County. I was like, I don't want to live here my whole life. My eyes are already too open from college and stuff. So I ended up just doing that for a few months, and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And so I did a bunch of odd jobs that sucked, this whole waitress entry-level stuff. And I ended up moving to Arizona because I really wanted to be able to afford to buy a house in California. It's so expensive. Yeah. So I moved to Arizona. I think by now we're in like 2004. And I bought a house in 2005. The market completely tanked after that. Oh, no. So I know. So it was a definite lesson of timing the market and trying to, like, when everyone is buying and everyone and their mom is becoming a real estate agent, that's a sign that it's not a buyer's market, it's a seller's market. And then when there's, quote, blood in the streets and people are just like, foreclosing and they're just giving away their houses, that's the time to actually buy. So it was a good lesson learned. But in that time when I was in Arizona, I tried to start businesses and I just couldn't figure it out. Like it just wasn't working for me. And the internet isn't then like it is now. So there weren't as many opportunities and things like that to do stuff digitally. So I ran back to what I knew, did a master's in education, and became a teacher. So that's like the long story that takes me to being a teacher, which is kind of back to my roots, because I was always a nerd in school. I was a tutor when I was in high school helping other kids. And so it just was a really good fit for my personality and my skill set.
Well, I think it's good too that, you tried a few different things, especially like with the real estate, and you realize this just isn't for me. I'm going to find something else. Because a lot of people, they just stick with it. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. And to think that we can study a bunch of things in an academic setting and just know what we want to do for the rest of our lives is, to me, completely unachievable. It's just, it's a crazy thought. So for me, in my 20s, I hated it. Like, in a way, I hated it because it was so stressful. Because I didn't have money. I didn't know what I wanted to do. all I knew was I wanted to travel and I wanted to start businesses, but I didn't have money to travel and I couldn't figure out the businesses. I was just like, what am I supposed to do with my life? So I feel too like now into my 30s, maybe part of that confidence starts coming more because like I've tried a million things. I've made mistakes and learned lessons and finally started to carve out my path. So if people are listening to this and they're feeling like they're still sort of floundering and not sure, that just is a sign that you, one, need to try more things, and two, you just need to be patient and see, like, let time pass to get you more clarity.
Yeah. I mean, exactly what you're saying. I mean, a lot of confidence is just doing something until you feel confident about it.
Yeah. You have to go through it.
Yeah. So with your teaching, how long were you a teacher?
So including the year that I did student teaching, 5 years total.
Okay.
So I did student teaching in AP psychology and honors pre-calculus. And then,
that's fun.
Yeah.
I never took calculus. So.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I was homeschooled, so I wormed my way out of it.
Nice. And then when I was a full-time teacher, I started with honors geometry, or geometry and honors geometry both. And then ended up kind of finding my little niche that I stayed with for the majority of the time, which was honors algebra 2 and advanced placement psychology.
Nice. Cool. So you were doing that. And then what kind of changed? What made you jump into entrepreneurship again?
Yeah. So part of the reason I became a teacher also was I really wanted enough time to travel. And I was seeing that most jobs would give you 2 weeks vacation. And I was like, that's literally not okay. Yeah. Like, I just can't live with that. It's just unacceptable. So I was like, okay, well, a teacher, it fits my skill set of education and helping explain things. And then it also gives me a ton of time off. And so at my school, we had 2 weeks off in October, in December, in March. And then our summers were like 6-ish, 7-ish weeks or whatever. Literally every break, I was on the first plane out of the country as far away as I could.
Oh my
gosh. I didn't come back till like the night before, like the morning of, I had to get back to school. Like, I was gone traveling. So at the end of this year in 2018, I will have gone to 44 countries.
What? That's awesome.
So when I was a teacher, I backpacked Southeast Asia, Central America, Europe again. So I really have tried to just embrace that travel bug that I had. And
Sounds
so
like
as a teacher, I kind of felt like, well, I can't figure out the entrepreneurship thing, so I'll just put that to the side. But I can now. I now have, because I was frugal with my money. I wasn't blowing it on like giant cars and big TVs and the newest electronics that came out. I would save it, squirrel it away so that I could go and take, get on a plane and go really far and backpack around for a while. Yeah. So cool. Yeah. So I kind of fulfilled that part of my soul, if you would say. And then I think I was 29. I was going to be turning 30. It was my 5th year of teaching, including student teaching. And I just knew I was done. Like, I looked around at the other teachers, and I was still in Arizona, by the way, and nothing against Arizona, but I find overall that places that are kind of like bigger cities on the coast, especially, are a bit more open-minded to international perspectives and things like that. So I kind of felt like I didn't want to stay in Arizona my whole life. Other teachers, I so respected them, the ones who are like lifelong teachers, but I just felt different. Like, I was just like, I just have these other things in my head that I can't turn off and just stay this one course. Yeah. So I knew that it was going to be my last year. I had nothing lined up. And I started telling people I was, quote, retiring or just leaving teaching. And they're like, oh, what job do you have? And I'm like, I don't. And they're like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I have to start a business. Like, this has just been on my mind now for, at that time, it'd been like 9 years or so. And so I was feeling really stressed out. And a friend of mine who I dance salsa with said, what company would you start if you were going to start something? And I'm like, I think it would be tutoring, because that's what I know. It's like just educational stuff. And he was like, oh, I have a friend you should talk to. So he ended up introducing me to a guy that ended up becoming my business partner in the first business that actually worked. For me to, try, because I had tried other stuff that didn't go anywhere. Yeah. So I ended up leaving teaching full time And I was, what is this, 7 years ago now, I guess. And I was getting some basic income from, I started teaching community college online for psychology. So I was getting inconsistent, but
Something
some
else,
income, something to like pay the basic bills so I wasn't like starving on the street.
Yeah.
Plus, as a teacher, I had squirreled away a lot of money. So I had a big savings bubble. And I was like, that's it. Let's just jump in all the way.
Let's do it.
Let's go. So a tutoring and test prep company is the first thing that I did that actually worked. And it's still alive today, but I'm not involved in it anymore.
Okay.
After a couple of years, I just realized that one, I'm not fully on board with the whole school system as it is. I don't feel like it really prepares you for what lies ahead.
Yeah.
So I was starting to kind of feel incongruous with promoting, let's get a 1600 on your SAT when really it's like, does it really matter? Like, yes, it helps you get into a better school, but then the better school, does it really matter? I don't know. Like I was starting to just see the world differently. Plus I really loved just having these kind of jam sessions like this with other entrepreneurs. It just lit me up versus parents and students. I kind of was like, oh, I'm kind of not as excited by that anymore. So I started a podcast production company with a good friend of mine and was helping others launch podcasts and like do the content marketing, content production behind it.
And had you done anything with podcasts before that time?
So the business partner with that, his name is Dominic. He is the host of a podcast for the Internet Marketing Association, which is a big marketing organization. But my friend Dominic has a full-time job. He's this really high up in education, does amazing things, also still in Arizona. And how it all started was he was like, you're a big nerd for writing. Can you listen to my episodes before they go live and do the show notes, write social media posts, maybe even ghostwrite a blog article that I can share with my name from a content piece you heard, inspired by the show. And I was like, yeah. So he started paying me a bit on the side to do that. And after a while, we kind of realized what we were doing together was a great business because he was doing the audio editing and I was doing the content afterwards. Yeah. And so we started offering that to clients and started launching other people's shows and doing this for more and more clients. So I started my own show, Copy That Pops, in April of 2016. And I had already worked on other podcasts. This was the first time that I was the host of one. And I thought it was important for me to start from the very beginning a show. So I really knew what it felt like for all my clients. Plus I just saw it as a great growing medium.
Absolutely.
And then at the end of that year in 2016, I was feeling frustrated with the rate of growth of our podcast production company. And I was like going to conferences, going to networking events, because I love doing that. And I really think it's important. And I kind of felt like people were nice, but they were looking past my head to like find a speaker that they could go run over to and like take pictures with. And I just kind of felt, I didn't feel confident. I felt like no one took me seriously. I felt like a nobody. And I was like, I know my stuff, like I'm doing a great job for my clients and I really care, but I didn't feel like I was getting the exposure and attention and credibility that I wanted to get. So I ended up writing my first book. And that's called Copywriting for Podcasters. I know you've read it.
It's awesome. I've read it twice.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. That's amazing. And so at this time I was still doing podcast production, but two things happened in 2017. One, my business partner, Dominic, was just so busy with his full-time job that he was like, you know what, I'm not all in on our business. And I was like, no hard feelings. I totally get that. And then at the same time, so many people were asking me, how did you write it? How did you self-publish? How did you hit bestseller in one of your categories? I want to do that too. And so I was like, boom, this is even better business idea for me.
Yeah.
And
you have full control over it. Like, and people are coming to you. You already know it's valid.
Yes. Yeah. And something that you'll have to tell me if you found too, what I found with the podcast production is that you're also competing with folks outside of the US who will charge $5 an hour to do audio editing. And you just can't charge that and survive. There's just not enough time in the day to do that. Living, in the US, most places, I'm in San Diego, there's no way. So with books, I found that people couldn't outsource what I was bringing to the table. So they were willing to pay a higher premium and I could work with fewer people at a better price. And it just kind of all came together nicely. Also, my background is in the nerdy writing and editing and English sort of side of things, and applying psychology to our writing to make it more compelling, to hook someone's attention and make them think, oh yeah, I would love to work with you, and use the book as a kind of like top of the line funnel piece to bring people in further into what you're all about. So in 2017, I started helping people for free, recorded it, put it in a course, shot video tutorials, did all my teacher things.
Yeah.
Started working with clients privately, started increasing my own confidence to charge more and more and more. So every time someone said yes, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they said yes for that price. Okay, let's raise it again. And so just started doing that. And now in 2018, I'm all in on just books. And I've even stopped taking clients privately so that I can grow my group programs more.
Wow.
So it's just all an evolution.
Yeah. And now you have 2 books on Amazon.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So in 2018, this year in March, I did a second book called Permission to Write a Brand Building Book. And originally it was called Permission to Write a Bestselling Book, but it was flagged by Amazon before it went live. They didn't like the term bestselling in the title, because they said that, I think their bots just caught it. It wasn't like a personal thing. It was just, that could be misleading, was like the verbiage that they sent back. So I was like, oh, a good learning lesson to share with my clients and students, right? So I changed it to Brand Building Book. And it really is about busting 9 myths that hold people back from thinking that they're good enough to write a book, or seeing a book as a great tool to grow their brand and business. And why is self-publishing actually really great? And what would it be like if literally no one bought your book? Would that be a disaster, or is it still worthwhile and still good?
Yeah.
Which it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of things I think to think about, because when we want to do something, especially like writing a book, I feel like the fear of it and the unknown, it can seem like just such a scary thing to do.
Yeah. Which I think is really fascinating, because if I said to you, Kelsey, or anyone listening, I want you to write 10 blog posts, like 10 good quality, long blog posts on a topic you're really comfortable in. You'd probably be like, it'll take me a while, but I can do it. But if I said, oh, well, a book is essentially 10 long blog posts on a topic put together in one file that you upload to Amazon, how is that any bigger of a feat?
Yeah.
To me, it's the same, but there's this magical mystery fairy dust around it because of the history of books, because in the past you had to be like hugely popular to be like a celebrity to get a book deal, or you had to be really crazy connected. So like average people were never going to be able to get these kind of opportunities. So there's this magic from the past, but now with self-publishing, that's no longer the case. But people still, one, their eyes open wide, like they're so impressed when you tell them that you're an author.
Yeah.
And then 2, people are intimidated to actually do it. So for those who are listening, who want to take advantage of the magic in the positive way, people will really look at you more seriously.
Yeah.
And also take advantage of, it feels like a bigger deal than maybe it is. So you're going to have less competition in taking it on. I feel like right now is like a golden age of self-publishing a book.
Yeah. I can totally see that. Well, it kind of reminds me of like, so launching this podcast, I knew how to launch a podcast. I had launched podcasts for other people, but when it came to launching my own, I dragged my feet and I knew what to do, but it just was so hard to sit down and do it. And I was so hung up on everything. So finally I was like, I'm just going to invest in Pat Flynn's Power Up podcasting course. I just need someone who can tell me exactly what I need to do, exactly like give me examples. And that way, like I will know exactly how I want my podcast to be set up. And I just like, I tell you, Laura, like every step was like, it was so stressful. Even just making the podcast cover art.
Yeah.
Writing the description, writing the long description, making like social media copy, writing all of the intros, scripting intros, like all of these different things. It was so many things. I know like it gets faster, right? But like it was so much to even think about. I just had to chunk it down into little pieces.
And you're probably, hitting up against things of like, who am I to be a podcast host?
Yeah. And also just like how does my voice sound? Oh gosh, I don't like the way I said that. That was awful. No, take it out. Take it out.
Right. I know. It's so funny because I edited my own show for a long time. And I recognize that I would say so as a transition all the time. I probably still do it, but hopefully I do it fewer times than I did in the past. But as I listened back, I thought, oh my goodness, that's so bad. Or I would realize I still do it when I do my own interviews. I'll say, awesome. Or, oh my gosh, I love that. And I'm like, can I think of something else to say?
But you do love it.
Right.
I say that all the time too. And I've listened back on an interview that I did with a friend. And when I'm telling a story, I say, and then they were like this, and I was like this, and they were like that. And it's really hard for me to say, and then they said this, and then they said that. I just think like this, like that, like this, like that. No, it was this. It wasn't like this. It was this. Such a bad habit to break.
Well, I'm from Orange County, so I feel your pain. That's how we talked. We're like, and then she was all, and I was like, and he was like, then I was like, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
He literally said nothing, but it's weird. I don't know.
Well, I'm just going to blame it on, I am originally from Texas, but I grew up a good portion in California. So I'm just going to say I picked it up there.
Yeah. And I think a lot of TV shows have picked up on that sort of cadence, but I feel after having now my podcast for 2 years and being interviewed on like 50 podcasts myself, I don't feel as nervous to speak. So like when we decided to jump on the call, I didn't do any major preparation. I wasn't writing out my talking points. And I did that in the past because I was so nervous. I wouldn't know what to say, or I'm so nervous that I was going to blah, blah, blah over my words and seem like an idiot. Now I don't really care because it happens to everybody. Yeah. And if someone doesn't like me just because I messed up one word, then I don't really care. Yeah. I guess like they have different issues that they can go focus on.
They're very particular with their podcasts.
Yeah. So I think that you increase the confidence by doing. You don't increase the confidence by researching. You have to do. When it comes to podcasts,
that's a tough one.
Or books or speaking on stage, because speaking on stage is something that I've been more stepping into because I used to be completely afraid of it. And I would tell the story in my head to myself that I sucked, and it would be like my worst case. Like I would rather do anything else in the world than speak on stage.
Really?
Until
I know
recently.
that's something, because that's something that you've been wanting to work on. I know that like we've talked about this, like you've been you're like, I'm booking a lot of speaking gigs right now. It's my focus. So what did you do besides just getting out there and doing it to get yourself more comfortable with it?
Yeah, just doing it is major because it's like imagining a little kid, let's say they're like 4 or whatever, and you put them on a bike for the first time and they get on and they fall. You would never say, wow, you're an idiot loser kid. You suck at riding bikes. I can't believe it. Because they've never tried it before. So that's why don't we cut ourselves the same slack when it comes to producing a podcast or writing a chapter for the book or doing on stage. Like we have to try it more and more to get our rhythm and get our feet under it. So I think that's the first thing is don't just expect you're going to walk out and be a superstar at something new you try. That's so unrealistic, okay?
That's the goal, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, you look at someone like Pat Flynn. We saw him at Podcast Movement, and we both know him. He is amazing on stage. He kills it. But even on his keynote at Podcast Movement this year, he played a recording of his first ever, like, little podcast, little audio. It was so endearing because you saw that he's just like us.
Yeah.
Like he sounded so not confident. He didn't know what to say. He even said, I don't know what to say. Tell me what you want to hear. I don't know. Like he sounded so different than he does now. Yeah. But if we just see him now and we think, oh, I have to be Pat Flynn level, that's absolutely unachievable. You have to start where Pat Flynn was in 2012 or whatever that recording was from. So just be more realistic with yourself. Like, come on, people. Like, and I'm saying this to myself too. Then the other thing is, and this to me comes with like putting yourself out there as the author, as the podcast host, as the person speaking on stage. I used to, for so long, think that my number one goal was to impress the other speakers. Because my biggest fear was like, if I get up on stage and what if Pat Flynn is also a speaker and he sees me speak and I suck, he's going to think I'm a fake and a loser, and he's going to just look down on me. That was my fear. That's why I never wanted to speak, because I thought everyone else who I see as the cool kids is further along than me are going to think I am a loser. So I'll just stay in the stands and never say anything.
Won't do it.
Yeah. But what shifted for me was, wait a second, my goal shouldn't be to impress the people I think are the cool kids in high school here. My goal should be helping the audience. If I have something that I believe I can help the audience, which I do, then it's my obligation to get my butt on stage and share that, whether I mess up or not. And as a woman, I feel doubly driven to this, because I don't believe that there are enough women represented on stage as authors, as guest experts, etc. So I'm like, wow, I need to also be the change I want to see in the world. If I want to see more women on stage, I'm a woman, I need to raise my hand and help the audience. I don't care what all the cool kids, quote unquote, think about me. As long as I'm helping the audience, that's what matters. And I think that's the same for your podcast. It's the same for writing a book. Stop worrying about what everyone else's opinion about you is going to be. If you have something you can share that will help, inspire, motivate, teach someone else, one person or more, then you should do it.
Wow. Drop the mic. Done. Wow. No, that's there's so much good nuggets of wisdom in that. I had so many thoughts while we were saying that. I think that coming back to something that you said earlier, I mean, I think that when you're doing what you're passionate about and you're being true to yourself, that is the best thing that you can be doing for the world. So when you were identifying, I don't want to teach anymore in this way, this isn't what I want to be doing, that is the best possible thing you could have been doing for for students, for the parents, for everyone in the world, because you are serving the rest of the people here in the world best by being true to yourself and doing what you're doing. And look at the impact that you're making now. And that also creates room when you remove yourself from a situation where you're not super passionate about it. I believe that creates room for someone who is to step into that.
Absolutely. That's so true. That's so true. And I mean, as a teacher, I was helping a lot of students, and I have a lot of students who said they hated math until they had me, and they were so appreciative. But now I even have these same students, they're now in their 20s, mid to late 20s, and they're still saying to me that what I've now chosen to do is in continuing to inspire them.
Yeah.
Because they're like, wow, you left teaching something that you had gotten really good at to start something brand new.
Yeah.
And you tried and failed and blumbled all over the place. And now but you enjoyed every step of it.
Yeah.
And now you've got even more clarity on, XYZ. And they're like, wow, that's shown me that there is more to life than maybe just academics or staying in a job. You're inspiring me in a different way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so brave to go after what feels good. Because even if you discover that it doesn't feel good, you can always go back to teaching or whatever you were doing before. You can go back. If you realize that, hey, actually that thing that I gave up, that career, I can go back to it. As long as you don't burn any bridges, you can go back.
That's true. That's so true. And I just feel like life is too short to not do what you want. I mean, as long as what you're doing isn't hurting people.
Yeah.
Come on. Time goes so fast. I am now 37. I cannot believe that. Boom. It went by so fast. So if I had spent all my 20s following some path that my parents thought was best for me, well-intentioned, never traveled the world, never, even became a teacher. I mean, I was on track to go do a PhD in psychology, which would have also been a great life. I love psychology so much, but I don't know. It got to the point where I was like, I just see a different vision and I have to go follow it or I'll regret it.
I think that's so brave that you did that. And I think that that's a great message to share, because a lot of people, they don't. And I think another good thing to point out here was when you were doing the teaching, you were saving a lot of money and you're being very smart with your money. And I think a lot of people, when I would talk to friends when I was in my first job out of college, I was putting away a ton of money because I knew I wanted to do something else and I wanted to be prepared. And I just loved seeing money go into my bank account. And I liked it to stay that way. Whereas now I'm like, ooh, online course. Let's see how much I got left in there.
Right. But you're able to do that. You're able to invest in your business now because you were smart with your money before.
Yeah.
And And I felt the social pressure. I'd like go out with friends and they're like, round of drinks for everybody. And they're like, oh, let's go like to this fancy restaurant or let's go do XYZ. And I was just like, no, thanks. Because I didn't value those things. I had the money to spend it on that, but I chose to use it differently. For me, it was travel.
Yeah.
And then saving also for being an entrepreneur.
Same. And I have a lot of people, I realized that in the past year, since I have worked for myself, I have gone on a major trip every single month, which just blows my mind. And so when I talk to my friends who still have their jobs, or like I was talking to someone the other day, they said, well, I would love to, just go off and just like travel in my car and like go on all these fun trips like you go on. I'm like, great, you can do it too.
Yeah.
Just sell your house, quit your job, take your kids out of school and hit the road. And she's like, yeah, no, I don't think I want to do that. I'm like, well, then don't complain.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's really, really interesting. So with your confidence that you have built up in all these different ways, I'm curious how you think that confidence plays into your personal life, your travel, and your business.
Yeah, I know like I held myself back for a long time and I didn't have the confidence and I didn't get the opportunity. So I feel like it kind of is a self-fulfilling prophecy, or it's like a loop that plays into itself. So the more action that you take, the more confidence that you get, the more confidence you exude, the more opportunities are given to you. You know what I mean? It just like all feeds into each other. But I don't think that you can just wake up and say, let's be confident. I think that, unless you're just sort of like an egomaniac. There are people who are just, who do nothing and they're still like very full of themselves. Yeah. But I think we normal folks, we need to see proof before we can believe it. But the only way you're going to get proof is by taking action.
Yeah. So maybe having like little baby steps that you can take to start kind of dipping your toe in the water and getting more confident in certain areas.
Yeah. It's like if you're nervous to write a book, write a great blog. Start there. Write a great blog, share it, ask for feedback, say, hey guys, where did you get lost, in this step-by-step or whatever. Tweak it. Okay, now you've got a great first one. Maybe that's chapter 4 of your book.
Yeah.
Okay, think about what will be chapter 5. Okay, something else is going to go in. You could literally write your book, 10 blog posts at a time, get feedback on it all, put it together, write an intro and outro, and boom.
That's awesome.
But take little steps, take action. If you just keep it all in your head or say, I'm not good enough until I hit XYZ accomplishments or whatever for a book, you're never going to get there. But if you have stories, lessons, tactics, tools, tips, tricks that can help someone a few steps behind you, you don't have to be the PhD quote unquote level of expertise. Like you don't have to be Pat Flynn in podcasting to help someone. If let's say you're at level 4 and Pat's at level 10, you don't have to get to level 10 with Pat in order to help people at 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And that's for everything. So I think that just taking action, sharing what you know, genuinely trying to help other people is going to start clearing that path.
Yeah.
And increasing the confidence as you go.
Absolutely. Would you say that positive self-talk would also contribute to that?
Yeah, I think that alone isn't enough. I think you have to take action, but then also like I try every morning, as soon as I recognize that I'm awake, I try in my head, I don't even get out of bed, I don't move, maybe my eyes are still shut, but I try to say 3 things I'm grateful for every morning. And I used to do it before I went to bed too. I need to start that up again because we all have so much to be grateful for that I think to remember how far we've come and what things that we do have that are great is a great way to kind of be grounded because there's always another mountain to climb.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, all I want to do is travel and then I'll be happy. Well, okay, I've done a lot of travel, but I'm not still happy. Wait a second. Okay, all I want to do is this. And then once you get that, you're like, what's next? So we have to enjoy it as we go and be grateful for what we have.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that so much lately, that whole what next? What next? And because every day I feel like that's something I struggle with because every day I'll wish I had accomplished more. And I'll never accomplish as much as I wanted to, especially because I want to accomplish so much that even just thinking about it makes me want to go watch the shark marathon that's on TV right now.
And crawl in bed.
Yeah. So, that's something that I don't know, no matter where you are in life, I feel like you're always going to want more and you're going to be like, oh, I'll be happy when, even if you don't, like, it's hard, you got to catch yourself. But I do that all the time. Like, oh, I'll be happier when I can travel more. And then I'm like traveling. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could work more right now. And then I'm working more. I'm like, man, I wish I could travel more. You know, it's just this back and forth.
Yeah, I think that maybe is just the human condition that like, that's why we build skyscrapers and have giant hunks of metal that flies through the air because we are always pushing for the next level.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great thing in our human psychology, but we can't let it make us feel deflated or overwhelmed. And that's easier said than done because I still have my days where I'm just like, all right, literally yesterday, my husband texted me and he was like, oh, how's it going? And I'm like, I didn't get a thing done until 1 p.m. I literally didn't. Like I searched for flights because I need to book some flights for stuff, but I had all these things I wanted to do and I just felt so overwhelmed that I couldn't even start it. And so I was just like getting lost in flight searches. You know what I mean? So like we all have those days. And then other days I wake up at 6 and I'm like, let's go. And I get so much done and I feel accomplished. But I think just to go easy on yourself because we all have those ebbs and flows of life. And there's a quote, I don't know who said it, but they say something like, we all overestimate what we can accomplish in a day or in a month, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in a year or in 10 years. So our little brains just like, we think that we get more done in one day than we actually can, but we can't quite conceptualize just how much we can accomplish in a longer spans of time. So I think that if you just do as best as you can every day and give yourself a break here and there and not beat yourself up, don't let it stop you. In a wider spans of time, 1, 3, 5, 10 years, you're going to look back and be like, holy crap, like how did I do all these things?
Yeah, that's it. That's so true. And I think a lot of times you can't even really fathom like what you're capable of. Like, I mean, last year, I would not have thought that I would be running my own podcast right now. Also, like one of the things I'm most proud of this year was being a mermaid in a mermaid photo shoot. And that wasn't even something that took effort besides getting to California and putting on a tail. Actually, that was a lot of effort, but like it was a $50 photo shoot. Like, but it's one of the things I'm most proud of this year is like I did a photo shoot on the beach as a mermaid, you know, because it's just really unique. And so now I've identified like unique things. That's what makes me feel accomplished.
Yes, that's so great. That's a great insight. Like fun, unique things. The more than sprinkle more of those in, you know?
Yes. And also I think I'm kind of really just starting to hone in on my girliness. I feel like for so long, my mom wanted me to wear like lace and pink that for a while I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. But now I'm just really honing in on the pink and the girliness. And I bought a bubble machine the other day and it's awesome. I feel like that's going to be endless hours of entertainment. So I think it was a very good insight for me to realize like, wow, that's one of the things that just makes me really happy is being surrounded by sparkles and fun things.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. So that is so interesting. We've just had so much fun stuff to talk about today. And I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay, cool. Okay.
I'm just going to learn a little bit more about you with some rapid fire questions. So, all right. Okay. So name one thing that makes you happy.
Okay, the first thing that came to my mind is my dog Tuck. He's a little min pin chihuahua. And earlier in the show, I'm not sure if anyone could hear it, but he was drinking some water at his bowl just a few feet away. And he was kind of clacking around with his little nails on the on the kitchen. So if people will go back and listen early on, they might have heard him in the background.
That's so cute.
He's just like a big snuggle bug. I really love him.
I love that. Oh, you'll have to show some pictures of him.
Yes.
Okay, so name one thing that you're grateful for.
Where we live here in San Diego, I love it. We have no shared walls because San Diego is so expensive that in the past we like lived in apartments and I literally would just go crazy because neighbors are always loud and we have this amazing spot. So I'm really grateful where we are.
Oh, San Diego is so amazing.
Yes, I love San Diego in general.
Okay, your favorite place that you've ever visited?
Oh, that's impossible.
So pick one or two. You can do two. Two places that you've loved that you visited.
Okay, I'm very enchanted by both Prague and Rome.
Okay.
They're just incredible cities with history and architecture and food and people that I'm just literally enchanted every time I go.
That sounds amazing. I have not been to either one, so on my list.
Yes.
Sounds so fun. All right. So your favorite book?
4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
That's a good one. All right. A podcast that you're listening to right now?
I love Gary Vee. I listen to the Gary Vee audio experience. Oh, although actually I should shout out another one that I'm recently obsessed with. A friend of mine named Erica Mandy. She has a show called The Newsworthy.
Yeah.
And she does every weekday the day's news in 10 minutes or less, fast, fair, fun, and on the go. It's amazing. I'd never miss it now.
That's so cool. I remember I think I met her at the party in San Diego, and it just blew my mind that she created her own news podcast, and she's just like, I'm a newscaster.
Well, and she has experience too. She used to be a news anchor, but she was getting so much feedback that like, I don't want to watch the news. It's always negative. It's always like just kind of playing on the worst parts of humanity. And so she was like, you know what? I'm just going to start my own show. I'm going to share the facts, but I'm going to make it like an upbeat.
I love that.
Bipartisan kind of way, like a not polarized. I don't know the right word.
And that's a lot of work to like study it every day and then record even like 10 minutes. I spent like 5 hours yesterday writing a 12-minute podcast episode.
For sure. And I mean, and you have to understand these issues before you can say them and report on them. It's not like she's just reading like a line from the newspaper. She has to understand these issues. So it's really incredible.
I'm gonna go check that out. I would love some fact-based, upbeat news in my day. I know my parents always have the news on, and it's usually not upbeat. It's usually very sad and
super biased.
And you want to be informed, but like you don't want to be upset. Because if you watch something and you just don't feel good, that's not good.
Right.
Yeah.
So check her out.
Cool. I will definitely link to the Newsworthy podcast. I will check that out. All right. So something that you do for fun.
I love salsa dancing, but on a more simple everyday type of thing. I don't do it every day, but I love walking to a coffee shop with Tuck and doing a little bit of work in the morning and then walking back with him.
I love that.
I love that. That
sounds like so much fun. I wish there was a coffee shop within walking distance where I am, because I love the idea of just like going, like I can still drive to one, but like the idea of walking.
That's what I love about Europe in general. It's just the way that the towns are set up. It's so much easier for walking and public transportation. And that was one thing, even here in San Diego, I was like, I don't want to live somewhere that I can't walk to a coffee shop, a grocery store, like at a minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I find a kind of a hard balance because like I'll go to a major city or New York and then I'll really miss my car.
I know.
In Texas, you can't really. I mean, my mom and I tried to walk once to the grocery store down the street and there weren't even sidewalks.
Oh my gosh.
Not in that portion of the road. Is very much like they were trying to make people not walk to the grocery store.
Wow.
So yeah, I like a little bit of a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. And then last question, something on your bucket list.
Oh, okay. I know. Galapagos. I want to do, let's say my dream is to do a 2-week minimum live aboard boat experience in the Galapagos Islands, scuba diving and
so
island
specific.
hopping.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's so funny. When I was a kid, when I think I was like 5th grade or something, we went to some giant science museum or something. I don't even remember what it was. And they put us in this giant auditorium and they played this kind of old school, like black and white video, but it was about the Galapagos Islands. And I was just mesmerized. I was like, whoa, this is so cool with all the different animal life and plant life and just it's like just a unique place that Darwin went and studied all these different species. And I remember walking out and just thinking, this is a cool spot. I like it. But I completely forgot about it. I don't even think I remember the name of it until I was like in college or something. I took an anthropology class and was taking more psychology and evolutionary psychology, which is my favorite kind of psychology. And they brought up the Galapagos again and Darwin. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the thing from my childhood. I want to go here. So I'm definitely obsessed with it. And I want to do it right. I don't want to just jump in there for 2 days. Like I want to really explore. And I am scuba certified up to rescue diver level. So I want to do scuba out there.
You are quite the interesting person, aren't you?
Yes. Sometimes I forget the stuff I've done. And like, this just goes to show you.
Scuba diving, trampoline.
I know, right? Salsa dancing.
Salsa dancing.
But I think that's for all of us. Like, we forget all the cool things we've done. We forget all the interesting things we've been a part of until other people ask, or until we just start remembering some of these stories. So just because maybe you aren't as experienced as someone else you're talking to about a certain topic doesn't mean you have interesting things to bring to the table. So like, we're bringing up Pat a lot, but like, if Pat and I sit down, we start talking about how much money we make in business, I feel like this like insignificant little like pipsqueak that's just like barely starting compared to him.
Yeah.
But if we start talking about scuba diving, I don't know if he's scuba or not. Now I have all this knowledge and experience to bring to the table to help out. So like, we humans are far more faceted than just any one thing. So don't put yourself down just because you aren't as far as someone else in one silo of life. We're all far more dynamic, and we should connect on more levels than just one thing.
Yeah. So that makes me also think about, I mean, if you want to do something, when like a lot of times people will get hung up on, I know I've gotten hung up on, well, other people are already doing it. What do I have to offer? But no one is offering it exactly like you. No one has had your exact experience.
Yes.
So, I mean, there is more than enough opportunity to go around.
And more people are coming online every day, like around the world, who are looking for this information. So it is definitely not saturated already. Like I remember I used to kind of hide the fact that I was like a nerd in school, because all the big entrepreneurs were always saying, I was entrepreneur from the get-go and I sucked at school, and it was kind of the cool story to have.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, I'm not like that. But then I eventually was like, I can't fake it. So let's just say what I really am. And I can't tell you how many people who have become clients, they have said to me, I was a nerd too. I went through the same struggles. I completely identify with you. I wanted to work with you because of that. And I was like, wow. Yeah, hey. So just share what, some people might hear this and be like, oh, she's into scuba. I want to work with her just because of that, because we have a connection point.
Well, that's one of the things I love about like these rapid fire questions, that it brings out some of those interesting things, more connection points.
So true. And that's a great tip just for networking, is to be genuinely interested in the other person. Start to kind of listen to their answers. And when their eyes light up about a topic, whether or not it has anything to do with the conference you're in or whatever the business is about, go down that path, because people love talking about what they're interested in. And I can tell you, I get really tired maybe about saying the exact same things over and over. But if someone meets me in a conference and they're like, I heard you love the Galapagos, girl, I just went there. Here's some photos. You have to, I would be like, you're my new best friend. Let's just hang out all the time. Yeah. And then business will come out of that because we have a connection. So it doesn't always have to be just about business to make a connection.
That's such a good tip. I mean, so do you have any advice really quick before we go on, like kind of how to maybe find one of those golden topics so if you're going up to someone at a conference and you're just kind of starting a conversation, what do you do? What do you do? How do you get into that?
Yeah. That's a good question. It's funny. Sometimes I will try to see how long I can make a conversation go before anyone says, what do you do? Yeah. Or I won't even ask, what do you do? Like, I'll try my hardest. I'll be like, so where are you from? I think that's a good place to start. Like, oh, are you local at this area, or you live somewhere else? And they'll say that. I'm like, oh, is that where you grew up? Oh, no, I actually grew up in here. Oh, that's so cool. And like, sometimes just from that alone, they might say Boston, and I say, oh, my husband, he's from Maine and he loves the Patriots. Are you a Pats fan? And then we talk about that. And like, you just watch. And they're like, I don't really care about football. Great. Ask something else. And, like, okay. And you just kind of can follow that thread. Yeah. But I think starting with, are you from here? Where did you grow up? Is really great. You can kind of start. And if it's like completely different places, you might be like, whoa, tell me how that happened. Like, how did you get from here to there? And then you start learning all this stuff about them. And there's always a way to kind of jump in further with what they're saying.
I like that, because it's also like asking open-ended questions will get a lot more information from people, because you won't just be like, oh, you like football? No. That's cool.
Good talk.
Good talk. See you later.
Yeah.
I like that. That's really good. Well, Laura, this has been so much fun. I think we've got some really good information here about networking and confidence and all kinds of good stuff. Trampoline.
My pleasure.
Yeah. All kinds of interesting hobby topics. And where is a good place for people to reach you?
Yeah. So the hub online is copythatpops.com. And from there you can find my epically long blogs that will help you on book writing and publishing and launching bestsellers. You can find my podcast. We've covered all different types of copy topics, from short stuff to long stuff, but I'm definitely really obsessed with books. So that's kind of the main focus in most of my episodes these days. I've also got a free Facebook group that you can find the link to, but you could also type in copythatpops.com/Facebook.
I'll link to it in the show notes.
Oh, perfect. Good. And that is for people who want to write, self-publish, and launch a best-selling book. And maybe they're like, okay, you sounded cool, but I'm not sure if I want to like invest in a paid program, but they want to get started and still get questions answered and be in a community of other people doing it. Because that's another hack of life, is you need to surround yourself by people who are doing what you want to do or who are already where you want to be in a certain way. And so this is a free way to get started with that. And then I've got also like free lead magnet downloadables and things like that all on the website. So that's a good place to start. And if you want to get more in depth with me, then you can absolutely reach out. And on social media, I'm Laptop Laura.
Cool. Well, I will link up to all of that in the show notes.
Cool.
And your 2 books on Amazon, which are awesome.
Yes.
All right. Well, Laura, thank you so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode with Laura Petersen. I hope you feel inspired to follow your dreams and become a networking master yourself. I know I learned a lot from this interview. I learned a lot about networking, building confidence, and also synchronized trampoline gymnastics, which is super awesome and I did not know was a thing. If you are interested in learning more about Laura's coaching for becoming an Amazon bestselling author, be sure to follow Laura on Instagram at LaptopLaura and listen to her podcast, Copy That Pops. You can also find the link to her website, fantastic Facebook group, Instagram, and more on the show notes page for this episode at positivelydelighted.com. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Positively Delighted Show. Be sure to head over to positively.delighted.com to get the show notes for this episode. If you liked the show so far and you've been learning a lot from the content, I would love if you could go to iTunes or your favorite podcast listening app and leave a review. You would be my favorite person ever. Thank you so much again, and I hope you have a positively delighted day. See you next time.